Good morning. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It's Friday, March 20th. Good heavens, not Tuesday, 2026 at 9 o'clock in the morning. And we're taking up some more bills, rearranging the order based on everybody's schedules. We're going to address the miscellaneous tax bill, which is H 933. This is the bill we heard last week. The fiscal note is the best way to take a look at it. All the things in the little blue boxes are the way to figure it out, just to refresh people's memories. You guys, Patrick and Chris, introduce yourselves and just remind us of the key points of this bill.
So Patrick Churchin, Joint Fiscal Office. There are several.
Expert Group Joint Fiscal Office.
There are several corporate tax changes in the bill, which we walked through with you all the other day, yesterday, maybe. And really what they are is a response to updated analysis that showed that, sort of normal conformity linking up with the federal tax code would have resulted in roughly a $20 million shortfall in fiscal year 26, raising to about $35 million in fiscal year 27, which is very pertinent to this committee, obviously. And really the update was, it was based on additional information and analysis that the tax department and JFO was able to do because the forecast based on current law and at the time that the forecast was being put together was referencing the information available at the time, which showed a much more immediate impact. So really HR 1 impacts, assuming conformity to federal law, were not really taken into account. So that's where you see several decisions that the Ways and Means Committee made to either link up to certain provisions in HR 1 and also to decouple from other provisions.
I think that the chart most relevant to us. Yeah, is that one on page 9, and maybe that's the one you've got. Yeah.
Yep. And so you can see if we come down as Chris is scrolling, that the ultimate change from Ways and Means was about, if you look at fiscal year 26 and 27 together, about a $10 million revenue increase compared to the consensus forecast. And then the pieces about meals and rooms and purchase and use, which Chris can expand on a little bit, are how it sort of nets out.
That was when we changed the percentages.
That's right.
So that was, we all talked about how good it was to have a structural change and not just a Band-Aid change. But that results in, for this year, a loss of another 800,000. So when you take the 14.25 minus the 3.96 minus the 800,000, we ended up with $9,490,000, which is what we used in our budget. So that's, and this also accounted for the 10-year tax study and the downtown tax credits and the first-time home buyer. So all of those things are in there and we still get that money. So those were all the things we agreed on. We don't agree on this bill. We don't have that money, and back to the drawing board on the budget.
And I would just remind Madam Chair that the committee that when my colleague Emily and James walked you through the big spreadsheets yesterday, as you mentioned, the net impact of all the moving pieces in this bill were reflected at the very top in that $9-ish million number.
Right.
So what this bill is all accounted for in the budget.
Exactly. So does anybody have any questions on the miscellaneous tax bill at this point? If not, let's have a motion to approve H 933. Is it as amended?
So moved.
Thank you.
No, it's as introduced.
As introduced. Second? Second. Thank you. Any further discussion on this bill? Hearing none, when the clerk is ready, call the roll.
Representative Blumenle,
Yes.
Representative Dickinson,
Yes.
Representative Feltus,
Yes.
Representative Konsenska,
Yes.
Representative LaRoche.
Yes.
Representative Rowicki,
Yes.
Representative Nigro,
Yes.
Representative Squirrel, yes. Representative Stevens,
Yes.
Representative McAvoy,
Yes.
and Representative Shy.
Yes.
11-0-0.
Excellent.
Yes, sure.
Yep.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. And we're gonna send this out to the clerk this afternoon, just make sure some timing issues. We're trying to
Well, that's right.
smooth the flow. So hold on to that and we'll deal with it. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
2 bills down, 5 to go, and now we have Cam here. Are you with it? Are you part of this?
I am, Madam.
So why don't you just stay there, and Cam, why don't you come up? We're now doing the treasurer's bill, unclaimed property, et cetera, 567. Amendments.
Good morning, sir.
And maybe a couple copies could be made for those of us that like, what is the number? 560, there's a 657 and a 567 that we're doing today, and so I'll be glad to be back into the 900s.
Also staffing a 933 and a 935, and I never remember. which-
Yep, and then there's a 938.
Yeah.
So yes, and then the yield bill will be 949. It did get a number, but we won't get that. We'll do that this afternoon. But the 5s and 6s, we're gonna do this in the night, and then we'll be in the 9s. So progress. All right, Cam, is the amendment on our committee page?
I'm gonna go get this.
Okay,
For the record, Cameron Wood, Office of Legislative Counsel. Oh. Sorry, I just sent a request to share my screen. We did a walkthrough of this bill, quite a ways ago. If you all remember, kind of 3 things that are being addressed. First, making some changes to the unclaimed property, adjusting some of the thresholds that are within that chapter to try to expedite certain monies getting back out the door to individuals who are claiming them. And then also some adjustment of where certain funds are going, currently going to the, I may get the name slightly wrong, but the Higher Education Endowment Trust Fund, and diverting some of those funds to the Vermont Saves Administration Fund for a certain period of time. And then the majority of the bill is about moving the kind of administrative and fiduciary responsibilities of the other post-employment benefit funds for state employees and teachers, which is currently under the state treasurer's office, moving the administrative and fiduciary responsibilities over to the Vermont Pension Investment Commission. And then there's some minor changes at the very end regarding the Capital Debt Advisory Committee and the reporting that they provide on an annual basis. So this amendment.
well, before you get to their amendment, there's a House Ways and Means amendment that
Yes.
made some changes. So let's review that as well. I don't even remember. I guess we reviewed it, but I'm not remembering that one. So let's sort of go in order here.
Totally understood. Their amendment is narrow. It's just amending 2 sections, and it's specifically related to what I mentioned a second ago about the money that's going to currently the I want to make sure I get the Vermont Higher Education Endowment Trust Fund. Just want to make sure I get the wording right. And the bill as proposed wasn't the exact language that the state treasurer's office wanted in regards to capping how much money will be transferred and where the money can go specifically. And so the amendment from Ways and Means is, I would say, somewhat technical. And the language here is, so currently the monies go into that trust fund, like I said. And what this will do is it will say the treasurer shall deposit money into, here on lines 5, the Vermont Retirement Security Fund. So the fund that's used to administer the Vermont Saves program. So instead of going to the Higher Education Endowment Trust Fund, treasurer shall deposit the money into this retirement securities fund up to a maximum total amount of $300,000 per year. And then this subsection B here gives the treasurer discretionary authority to, if that Vermont Saves Fund doesn't need $300,000 on a specific given year, the treasurer can reduce that amount and divert some of that to the Education Endowment Trust Fund, which is where the money's going now. So there's still that cap of $300,000 per year, shall go to Vermont Saves Administrative Fund, but it gives the treasurer the discretion to continue to divert some of that to the Endowment Trust Fund. And then I think it's 20, I don't have the year on top of me. Is it 2030? No, it's beyond that, 2040. What year is it?
Good, FY 33.
Introduce yourself,
33?
please.
Oh, sorry, I'm David Chair Deputy.
It goes to 2033.
Thank you. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, no, I just want to double check. So this statute will exist for a period of time and then it will revert back. It's 2040.
January 1,
Yeah,
2040.
I was gonna say, I thought it was farther out than that. So
Right.
this diversion will exist until 2040, at which point the language, according to the Ways and Means Amendment, it'll sunset. And then it will divert back to how it currently exists, where the money is all going to the Vermont Higher Education Endowment Trust Fund. So period of time where it gives the treasurer a little bit of discretion, but diverts the monies to the Vermont Saves Program.
Okay, so they capped it.
Yeah, and just to be clear, because you heard a lot of dates floating around, the statute makes the change effective until 2040, but the fiscal modeling that is in the fiscal note that the treasurer's office gave us was that they expect that by FY 33, Vermont Saves will be able to stand on its own fee revenue. So in practice, the diversion, for lack of a better word, of this money to Vermont Saves will not last until 2040.
So why did we put 20?
Gives them a little bit more runway. But it's still like the money
But they
would,
can't do it if they're operating all right, if they don't need it. They can't keep doing it to 24.
if they don't need it, then it would just go into the higher ed trust fund. If Vermont Saves doesn't.
So if they finish this in 2033 and get to where they think they would not be allowed to keep that money.
They would still be allowed to. It's just they don't think they need to based on the fiscal modeling that they've presented to us. So the authority, like if they didn't need it for Vermont Saves by default, it would be available to the higher ed trust fund. And this construct makes more money available to the higher ed trust fund over that period of time than current law by raising that unclaimed property threshold from $100 to $150.
So the higher ed trust fund is not negatively impacted based on
No.
projections.
I would actually say it's positively impacted,
Okay.
because by raising that cap, it'll actually get more money
Yeah.
over time, even with diverting a little bit of it.
Is that part of your fiscal?
It is.
Yeah, maybe we should look at your fiscal note.
Bring it up. if you
Yeah,
want.
I'm just
Anywhere.
looking at the Ways and Means. I'm just asking Cam about the Ways and Means Amendment. On section 5A, which seems to be you say the Vermont Retirement Security Fund. Is that the SAVE fund or?
Yes, ma'am. That's the name of the fund that exists to administer that program.
So that's the one that's getting, of course, there was a typo in there. You're correct.
And we are fixing that in your amendment.
Yes, okay.
What was just the type?
It was left out a zero.
Oh, that's right. You were missing a zero.
It had 300 less than.
Wait, oh, yeah, right.
Anyway, never mind.
Right.
But it's okay, so that is, so when you said earlier that the language wasn't what the treasurer wanted, where is that language? That he,
You'd have to look at the bill as introduced, and I can pull that up if that would be helpful.
sure, are they, or?
I'll let Chris walk through your fiscal note as I pull the bill up, and we can kind of review what's there versus what the amendment does.
Sure. So I just pulled up on the screen the piece of the fiscal note that shows the graphics related to this. So you'll see that on both figure 1 and figure 2, based on modeling from the treasurer's office, they expect that Vermont Saves would be sort of fiscally self-sustaining beginning in FY 33. And you'll see in figure 2 that this is where that $300,000 combined cap on transfers comes into play. Like all of those bars are at that $300,000 level. You just see that over time, the amount that is expected to be needed by Vermont Saves starts tapering off, and there would be more available for the higher ed trust fund. And when you look at the numbers here, you're by FY 29, you're at 161,000 and way up into the 200 plus thousands. And if you compare that to recent transfer activity, I mean, that's a lot more money than they had been receiving under the current $100 threshold. So Vermont, the higher ed trust fund will be likely ahead from this, largely as a result of lifting that threshold on the underlying property.
And then my other question on this is, if less money is going, or more money is getting taken out of unclaimed property, does that affect how much of unclaimed property gets transferred to the general fund? I mean, that's the other part that happens.
So I would say to really a de minimis level, because the amount that we base the budget construct around is an estimate. And in prior years, the actual amounts that have been transferred from unclaimed property, because there's been so much more unclaimed property coming in, have significantly exceeded those budgetary estimates by several million a year. So this, I don't think would change any of your budgetary decisions.
Okay.
It's a pretty
So it's not
marginal.
hurting the general fund.
It's a very, very marginal impact. And it doesn't alter your box for this.
Yeah.
Okay, so the change from the bill as introduced is really about giving the treasurer's office flexibility. So what you have on
Tell me what we're on now.
what you have here is the bill that's in, as it was introduced and as it came out of the House Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs.
Okay, and then we'll look at the ways and means.
This is what the language in that section stated, which is really, it's more of a full diversion of all of the funds over to the Vermont Saves program. So it's, as you can see here, is on line 14, 15, and 16. The property valued at 150 shall be paid into the Vermont Retirement Security Fund up to a maximum of $300,000. And anything remaining would go to the Vermont Higher Education Endowment Trust Fund. But because they're anticipating for the first years of this to be receiving above 300,000, it basically means everything is going to the Vermont Saves Administrative Fund. So the amendment that you have, so I'm going to pull up the Ways and Means Amendment. The amendment that you have here is structured different to give the treasurer's office some discretion about being able to continue to provide some of the money into the Vermont Higher Education Endowment Trust Fund. So the amendment that Ways and Means is proposing here is saying that the money shall go to Vermont Saves up to the 300,000. So consistent with the bill as introduced.
Right.
But there's the sub B here, which says notwithstanding that, the administrator, in the administrator's sole discretion, funds can be directed to the Vermont Higher Education Endowment Trust Fund. So it's giving that discretionary authority to the treasurer in a given year to reduce the amount going to Vermont Saves and divert it over to the Higher Education Endowment Trust Fund.
Anything over 300 has to go over there.
Anything over 300 would remain with the state treasurer to then distribute in future years.
Yeah, and one of the issues on section B that I think is really important fiscally is that phrasing not more than a combined total of $300,000, that was important clarification because without that, when you raise the threshold from $100 to $150, that sweeps in like a huge windfall of unclaimed property that would have been dumped into the higher ed trust fund sort of immediately. So this clarifies that like no more than $300,000 combined like can go to these two funds. So you're not sweeping a big windfall.
I see, right. So there might be 500,000 in the 100, up to the 150. And we want to keep the other 200. So 300 can go to these places and 200 has to stay in unclaimed property.
Right, just by raising that threshold, I think it would have swept in over like $2 million would have come in. So
Okay,
it would have been a
then we
bit.
are beginning to hurt unclaimed property.
Yeah, so this was an important
It
clarification.
is an important clarification. Thank you, House Ways and Means. For what?
Or general.
Yes, and that's what I mean. Once if it gets out, then it affects our general. This little amount, the 300 isn't going to affect the general fund, but
I have a technical question here. B is in the amendment from Ways and Means. We are just correcting the money as a technical thing of the 300,000. We're leaving B intact.
Yes, ma'am. So I'll jump over to the amendment that I drafted for this committee here.
before you do that, are there other parts of the bill that we should know about before we get to that so people understand what we're amending?
The bill is 36 pages. It's quite extensive.
No, I know, but let's look at the fiscal note part of that, because maybe that's the way to do it. faster for us. What are the other pieces of the?
Is the first one on our web?
Yes.
I did repost it. It is
Thank you.
up there.
Refresh.
Refresh, thank you.
So there's a few things that I think are pertinent to this committee and your discussion today. Section 7 creates that pension and benefits funding task force to take a look at our amortization policies and come up with recommendations for you all. This section contained a $75,000 general fund appropriation for actuarial work. It's my understanding that the committee likes to reflect appropriations in the big bill. So
We actually moved that whole section.
yeah, so
They fill.
so a piece of the amendment that you're going to look at just strikes that appropriation out of this bill, so it doesn't ride in both places.
Yeah.
There's another thing that I wanted to draw your attention to, and it's all of these sections relating to transitioning OPEB fiduciary oversight from the treasurer's office to VPIC will involve, and I'm not talking about general fund now, I'm talking about retirement special funds. This is going to involve some budgetary switching that will be transacted in the big bill. So what we'll need to do to make this actionable is there are some professional services contracts at the treasurer's office related to investment consulting for the OPEB, about $105,000 a year. I would suggest to the committee that as part of this, should you agree to it, that when we take a look at the big bill later today, we'll shift that $105,000 from the treasurer's budget over to VPIC's budget, so they have the spending authority to take on these new responsibilities. There is also a identified need by VPIC of an additional FTE to manage the additional work associated with OPEB, with minor related administrative expenses to like buy this person a desk and a computer and things like that. Again, these costs are not paid by the general fund. They are spread across the retirement systems proportionally. So we have a spreadsheet with that all worked out. But should you agree to doing this in the bill, Representative Dickinson and I will compare notes, and you would see some changes made in 7 different sections of the big bill that sort of line up all those VPIC appropriations. So I just wanted to put a pin in that there will be a follow-on in the budget to make sure this can happen.
Right.
And the last thing I wanted to mention is that Section 24 created 3 positions at the Office of the State Treasurer. Again, none of these are general fund. 2 were unclaimed property. 1 is at the retirement office and is funded proportionally from the retirement systems. My understanding that this committee's practice tends to be not authorizing a lot of positions in other bills. So I think another provision of the amendment you'll see just remove Section 24.
Right, and we haven't decided on any of that. We have a proposed amendment, and that's what we're going to discuss. But I wanted everybody to get a sense of what's happening. I think I feel pretty strongly that the whole OPEB thing needs to transfer to VPIC. That's the right place for it. And the associated money that in the position, because we're talking billions of dollars, they need a person to watch this. So I'm talking that part makes total sense. And then we can go over the rest of the amendment. So we sort of clear on where we ended on all this bill. And then we heard the Ways and Means Amendment made some more clarifications and tightened some things up, which was great. And now we're at our place. So
Yes, on our bill, our amendment, you have the first amendment for the change in.
we want to have Cameron present this.
Cameron, can you present first and second?
Yes, ma'am.
And then
So this, what you see on your screen now is the proposed amendment from this committee.
Okay.
So this committee
Yes.
is recommending that the bill, as it's amended by the Committee on Ways and Means, be further amended. And you have 4 instances of amendment. The first 2 instances of amendment are in Section 2 and Section 3, which is what we were just discussing with the Ways and Means Amendment, where Ways and Means is giving the Treasurer's Office that discretion of where those funds are going in a given year. There was a Scrivener's error on my part that was not caught by our team, where in 2 instances, as you can see there, in 2 instances, the 300,000 reference is just missing a 0. And so we're correcting that in those two instances.
Should something be underlined in the second instance of amendment?
No, ma'am.
Why is it underlined in the first instance?
It's,
and not in the
it's
second?
underlined in the first because it's going to be new language. And it's not underlined in the second because it would then be existing language at that point in time.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Thank you. That's why you're the lawyer and I'm.
And then we have just a third and fourth instance of amendment, which as was mentioned, by Chris as he was walking through the fiscal note there in the task force that is reviewing the pensions themselves, they're striking out the appropriation for that section. And then in section 24 is the section that outlined those positions. And so you're just striking that section entirely as well.
Right, and that was the proposal that the person from the bill said. Lynn, do you want to talk a little bit about why you're recommending we strike out section 24?
Yes, OPEB, when it transfers from the Treasury to VPIC, OPEB is the health insurance.
I think that was not the one, I'm talking about section, the fourth
We're
amendment,
talking about the
treasurer positions.
treasurer's positions. We've added a lot of treasurer's positions in recent years. Since probably 23 or 22 is when they moved VPIC out of the treasurer's office and created this separate group. They do the actual advisory on the retirement funds. But we've had several people, several positions created in there over the years, and thing is, what we have now is a more tight financial year. We think that they're moving OPEB out, and we're going to have to go, and that requires a very specific kind of investment strategy, different than a regular retirement. And so that's going to be fixed. So we're going to just not add any more to Treasury at the moment.
So that's not general fund, but there's concern about just.
It comes out of unclaimed property. There's two
Right.
for unclaimed property. And that does have a small amount of impact on general fund, possibly in the future. We're obviously changing the unclaimed property and trying to expand its use anyway,
Right.
which is apparently, I think, going to be handled by the treasurer's office. They
Right.
put all this together. They seem to be able to do that. But and the other is the retirement fund, and that is there was concern about fraud, and we've had an increase in the amount of usage of unclaimed property and applications for unclaimed property. And there has been a lot of advertising about, don't forget to check and see if you have unclaimed property.
Yeah.
So obviously, we're getting a lot more interest and a lot more people, but they have people that have been at it over there to do this all along, so.
Okay, so you're recommending we don't do Dave?
I just said to clarify.
Yeah.
That you indicated positions have been added in the recent past, but haven't more duties and responsibilities occurred during that period? And
Well-
is that a reason for not helping out now when yet more responsibilities appear to be added?
Well, with the creation of VPIC, the responsibilities were removed from the treasurer's office and moved to VPIC. And they had people who transferred and some people who, they only have a small number of people at VPIC, and one of them was transferred. Now they will have a new position to do the OPEB, which is the post-employment for primarily healthcare, which is something that really needs a very specific kind of investment strategy of its own. It's a specific kind of need. So they added new positions, but they didn't take on any more responsibilities because a lot of that went to VPIC. The answer is no, they didn't take on more responsibilities. They took on, there's an increased volume, and there's concerns, but I think the decision was, we talked about it, that it's not going to probably be added in right now.
Okay, I was thinking about the healthcare program and the retirement program and other things that.
That has been picked up a lot by VPIC.
Yeah, actually, this is for you, Lynn. One of the things that in reading, the memo that's on our website, you know, it talks about the workload and how many claims are being processed and how many it's 3.5 times the workload as it was, you know, 20 years ago. And I'm just, that seems like a big increase. And because this would be funded through unclaimed property, I'm just wondering, you're thinking about that reality, that there are folks who are doing 3.5 times as much work as they were before.
Because we've had more unclaimed property.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with the more positions added, they have positions there. They've added, I think, 23, I think they asked, the governor gave them 2, they asked for 4, they got 2 more, and then, well, for whatever
They
their
were all
needs.
unclaimed property. I think this is specific
Yeah.
to unclaimed property is what you're saying, that
Yeah.
they're handling 3.5 times the volume they were 20 years ago with the same number of employees in unclaimed property.
Yes, well,
The general fund, it's one thing, and we've talked about that, and if we're using the unclaimed property fund, you know, I guess I'm comfortable with that, given what I've read about the pressures on that office, to respond, and at any rate.
What if we did one in unclaimed property? I don't know. Go ahead, ask the question. This is all debate.
First of all, I'm at that moment where sometimes I just go, but why are we even asking why do we have to ask why does the treasurer's office, which is a separate office altogether, have to ask for more positions, especially when they're saying it's being funded by the proceeds of that department? And I'm sure that there's a very simple answer to that question. Right, so all this question about positions and how many positions we can do, I can understand us negotiating or talking about or making a choice over 2 positions or 1 position, and we can assume that they'll take any position that we can give them. But they've lived with this issue. They're funding it. It makes never mind as to the rest of the state government. So I'm just curious, like, how are we embroiled in this? And the fact that we are and having this conversation, when that division is fun, I personally feel like the increase in the amount of work needs the 2 people, period. And if we just cut it to 1 or 0 by saying that they have other people that positions have been created for, that's exactly what we're trying to work against, is we're trying to get people who are focused on doing the most efficient job, and to lower the thought that there might be any kind of fraudulent behavior by people trying to think. So is there an answer to the first question, which is, why do they have to ask us to create positions they're funding?
So I don't have an answer to that. I would ask somebody in Ledge Council, and I don't know that Cameron's the person I would ask in Ledge Council. There might be, you know, Bran, I don't know the answer to that question. Unless I'm making this up, but I'm wondering if it's because we get money from the unclaimed property fund into the budget, and anything we do, I'm just picking that one because that's what we're talking about. And anything that we do could potentially have an impact on the general fund, because they transfer money from unclaimed property to the general fund. That's the only reason I can think of, but I don't have a good answer for you.
Right,
That's-
I mean, and
that's all
it applies to DLL, you know, they raise their money for, this can apply to the AG's office where
I think that's
the AG's office shouldn't be like pay to play or pay their people because they're getting settlements, but just the idea.
Right.
So, so if we can find an answer to that, that's not coming from the administration, I'd appreciate it if there's a rule.
I can ask our executive director, my immediate response, and this is just my thought, would be, and you all as the legislative body have the authority to create positions wherever they exist in the government, whether you feel that a separate entity like the treasurer, you need to defer to the governor or the administration. I don't know that there's anything in law or the Constitution that would require that. But I will double check or ask.
Yeah, that's my guess, is that it's related to the amount that might come over.
And
Go ahead, Chris.
this is not a legal answer because I'm not a lawyer, but I would just say that in my 6 sessions here, we've seen positions created in independent entities, and as well as in divisions that are self-funded through, special funds or other things. So I think the process is sort of agnostic to whether or not the position is in an office that is independently elected or not. I think that's a separate question than whether or not the legislature should be spending the amount of time that it does on creating positions, but that's neither here nor there.
Yes, I think the answer is that the legislature has power of the purse. And every time you add a position, that costs more money for the state government as a whole. I'm not a lawyer either, but I just think that that's a fundamental piece of what we do. So we put in all kinds, the attorney general, they all come to us and we look at all of their budgets all the time. I'm perfectly happy to go and make this a compromise if it's one person instead of 2. But I think we do have the reality is we've added a lot of positions to that particular office.
The treasurer's office, not the same property, because this is
The treasurer's office as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I saw Mike and Mike.
Perhaps this is analogous. I've covered the Office of Child Support, and they actually make money for us. They save money by keeping people from having to draw down benefits, and they bring money in by facilitating the payments that a parent should be giving for their children. Whenever they come to us and ask for positions, it's like, of course, you're bringing money in. I don't know if it's exactly analogous to what this is, but it seems to me that they're doing the work, they're bringing money in. So, yeah.
I guess I'd first say that it does feel appropriate to me that we make sure that all parts of government are right size, regardless of how the funding, operates. And I think just because funds are being generated someplace doesn't mean we shouldn't take an active role in making sure things are right size. And I would personally be fine with saying we could add one position and also say that, we can always see next year too, how the workload has progressed with that addition.
Right.
Address that again.
Yeah. So would people be okay if we added one position? We're going to have a couple, we're
We're gonna have to change that for.
yes, we'll have an amendment to amendment, but are people okay if we add a position?
Madam Chair, we could just let the bill ride with the amendment as is and reflect your decision with positions.
Yeah, we haven't done positions yet, have we?
No, we have not done positions. So you're saying have this bill take out the positions and then the big bill will add the position to unclaimed property and then we don't have to do another amendment. Okay. Yep. Everybody get that? Okay. Thank you for helping us think this through. So any other questions on the amendment? Just so everybody knows, wrote this all down. Here we go. GovOps was 1100. Ways and Means was 1100. And now it's our turn. So let us vote on the amendment and then the bill is amended as amended. Okay, so is there a motion to support the House Appropriations Committee amendment to page 567?
So moved.
Thank you, Lynn, and second, Wayne. Any further discussion on our amendment? Hearing none, when the clerk's ready?
Representative Blumenle,
Yes.
Representative Dickinson,
Yes.
Representative Feltes,
Yes.
Representative Konstanska,
Yes.
Representative LaRoche,
Yes.
Representative Wicki,
Yes.
Representative Nigro,
Yes.
Squirrel, yes, Representative Stevens,
Yes.
Representative Yakavoni,
Yes.
and Representative Shaw.
Yes.
1100 on the
Okay. And so then the next is the bill as amended. As amended twice, as amended and further amended?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a
I-
motion? You've got it. I'm trying to say it so people know what they're voting on too. So moved. Is there a second? There's a second.
Second.
Okay, Mike, and any further discussion? I think we're clear, okay?
Representative Blumeley,
Yes.
Representative Dickinson,
Yes.
Representative Feltes,
Yes.
Representative Kanchenska,
Yes.
Representative Roche,
Yes.
Representative Wojcicki,
Yes.
Representative Nigro,
Yes.
Representative Squirrel, yes, Representative Stevens, Representative Yakuboni,
Yes.
Representative Chop,
Yes.
700.
Okay, thank you, and then yes, it's your bill. Okay, thank you, everybody. Appreciate all the work that was done by everyone on this. And so we'll have a couple of things we'll see in the budget, but it should look familiar because we've talked about it. We have another bill we need to do, but I need to reorganize our schedule again. So I'm gonna ask us to, this is gonna be happening a lot today. So let's break